Welcome to the Football Garbage Time NFL podcast. My name is Wong, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Football Garbage Time. And with me is the OG co-host. It's Scott King. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well. We've got football this month.
I know.
The Lions are playing in it too, so
I almost cannot believe it. You're right. You're talking about Canton, Ohio Hall of Fame game, Thursday, July 31st, Chargers and Lions. Are you excited?
I'm excited for it to be back. I mean, these are going to be guys who aren't going to have a roster spot anywhere in this league, but it's football. It's on TV. We're going to watch it.
They're wearing the right uniforms.
Yeah, exactly. The Lions are playing the Falcons preseason here. We're going to go. I mean, it's, $50 and you get to see them play. So
yeah,
it's money well spent.
I absolutely agree with you. And we got a lot to talk about, but I think what we're going to talk about today are some of the changes that have been made and its impact on fantasy football. It's coming around the corner because if the preseason is here, then your fantasy football drafts are also going to be here soon. And of course, we're going to do our mock draft in order to talk about who we would select for our teams. But before we get there, let's talk about some early fantasy football targets. And we're going to do it by talking about each of these specific teams that had some significant impact. And we're going to start today with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, of course, got Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback as a surprise to no one, as he kind of held out for the one job that was available in the NFL. But, of course, that means there will be some impact as there are a number of skill players that are on the Pittsburgh Steelers that will be impacted. Of course, at running back right now in the depth chart, you got Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson, the rookie. You got DK Metcalf joining the team alongside of Calvin Austin and Robert Woods and others. And, of course, Pat Freiermuth there returning as tight end, joined by newly picked up Jonnu Smith, and, of course, many others. So let me ask you this first. What do you think the impact is here on the skill players with Aaron Rodgers joining the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a net positive. I mean, he's at the end of his career. He said, I think this is his last season pretty clearly. The Steelers were able to win some games last year with this Justin Fields, Russell Wilson kind of combo. Nobody really knew what was happening.
Right.
I think with Rodgers, you get a clear number one. He'll be there for camp. He'll be able to move the ball, and I think it makes DK interesting. I mean, the guy's a monster. He's huge. He can get balls in the end zone. Rodgers likes to work with his number one receivers if they can set up a relationship. I think it makes him interesting. I think it's just like with any player, it's a matter of where you get them. Right. So these aren't guys I don't think you're reaching for them. Maybe they get overdrafted because of Rodgers, but if you're staring down at DK Metcalf, could be an interesting play.
Yeah, I mean, he's wide receiver 24 right now in drafts. His ADP is coming up at 44.0. There's some upside there if Aaron Rodgers likes him. But hey, listen, Metcalf can look at him sideways one day and Aaron Rodgers will throw a fit, and that we never see Metcalf get a ball again. So I just have a lot of fear that there is an unknown element to it. We know Metcalf is good. We know Aaron Rodgers can be good. We don't know if the two of them together will be good, and particularly in what I think will be a run-first offense and defense, and kind of a keep away type of game plan, play great defense and run the ball and kind of play ball control. I think that's what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. So I agree with you, Scott. I don't want to reach for any of those guys, but I will point out one guy who I think is going to be a relatively good value in the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Caleb Johnson. Rookie drafted this year. I mean, he was going right now as running back 24 with an ADP of 71.5. That's actually pretty late for a running back who may actually be the starter. I mean, we're all kind of expecting that he will be taking the Najee Harris spot as the primary early down back for the Steelers. And quite frankly, he played as a running back in committee for a number of years prior to breaking out last year with 240 carries for 1,537 yards and 21 touchdowns. I mean, he's a great downhill runner. I would say he looks like Najee Harris, but is more talented than Najee Harris. And so I think in a scheme which will run first, and the fact that Jaylen Warren will probably be more of a change of pace back there, smaller guy catching passes out of the backfield, could have also value late in drafts. I think Caleb Johnson will be a pretty good value as RB24, ADP 71.5 in drafts this season. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good play. I mean, the Steelers, that they, I don't know that their game plans changed much in the last 50 years, right? Run first,
Yeah.
play defense, throw the ball,
Right.
don't turn it over. They had some flashes with Big Ben, but yeah, I mean, if Rodgers plays within the system, he'll be good. And then you've also got, then you've got the weather that's going to come into play towards late in the
Yes,
season in your playoff run. And
absolutely.
for sure, you're running the ball. So, yeah, I think it's definitely, it's a team to be, keep an eye on. But again, this isn't somebody you're circling to grab in the first round for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they got Caleb Johnson relatively early for a running back. They got him in the third round of the draft, and he doesn't have a lot of competition. I mean, Jalen Warren, like I said, more suited to be change of pace back. After that, they got Kenneth Gainwell and Trey Sermon. I don't see those guys surpassing Caleb Johnson on the depth chart. I see Caleb Johnson getting plenty of opportunity there. So that's where we think about the Steelers. But I totally agree. I'd shy away from the receiving options in Pittsburgh for now, because I just don't have a lot of confidence I can predict what they will do in season. Let's turn our attention to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, the new information now is Tristan Wirfs out for the beginning of the season, probably for a good part of the season. I believe it's an Achilles related injury. That's a big deal. I mean, that is a tackle that has kept Baker Mayfield upright, and Baker has had problems staying upright even with Tristan Fields on the line. So without him there, I have some fear there will be some negative impact here of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers skill players. What do you think? What's the impact here on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in fantasy football?
Yeah, for me, what I wrote down is aging wide receivers, right? Like these guys are, Mike Evans, great career, he just keeps cranking them out, Godwin, but
right,
it's going to start catching up with these guys. So now you mix in an offensive line injury. I'm happy for Baker that he's had this resurgent, his fourth stop or whatever in his career, and he finally got things turned around. But I just think there's going to be a drop off with these receivers, whether it's them getting a step slower or Baker not having the time with the offense. But, my note for these guys was just aging wide receivers. And what does that look like? And, it looks like Mike Evans is still being drafted relatively high.
Yeah, wide receiver 20, 37.0 overall. That's a lot. That's high for a receiver. Like you said, who's aging. He's in his 11th season, I believe. And of course, Baker Mayfield with less protection than he had last year.
Yeah, I think it's just going to drop, and Godwin as well. So, they're going to get overdrafted, and I guess don't get caught in a trap of there's a run on receivers. I got to take Mike Evans. I'd rather be a year early on being out with Mike Evans than burning a, third round pick on a receiver that goes, 25 catches for 600 yards because he gets hurt.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if you're in that position where you're starting to panic and Mike Evans is sitting there as wide receiver 20, I would say wait a little bit. Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs going at wide receiver 23. We're not going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think there is a lot of there's a lot of pessimism, I should say, around the Kansas City Chiefs coming out firing, and I don't think that's deserved. And Xavier Worthy can be a big part of their game plan going forward. So you can wait a little bit longer. He's right now has an ADP of 43.5. That's a whole 6 to 7 spots later than Mike Evans, and I'd prefer to have him over Mike Evans. As you mentioned, Chris Godwin still being drafted relatively high, a little bit better, wide receiver 36, being 67.0 ADP overall. After that, we just got a bunch of dart throws. So I don't know if I'd invest in anybody past that. I will say the one guy I kind of like in Tampa Bay, though, is Bucky Irving, who's being drafted at ADP 22.5, running back 9 overall. I mean, he had a great rookie season. He absolutely just knocked it out of the park. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry. He averaged 3.93 yards after contact per carry. That's the most among all running backs with 60 or more rushing attempts last season. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, he did a fantastic job really setting the pace there. And I think in a situation where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may not have a lot of time in order to protect Baker Mayfield or Tristan Wirfs out, they may be handing the ball off a little bit more often. Bucky Irving might actually benefit from that. And hey, can he get a little bit better? Yes, he can. Rashad White's still floating in the back there, so I think maybe he gets a couple more extra carries as well. But I think Bucky Irving perhaps worth his ADP of 22.5. What do you think about Bucky Irving?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the play. Similar to the Steelers, right? So they've got quarterback and receiver issues, and you're just going to rely on a running back. And through the course of the season, I think he was a good pick. I ended up with him in some league, somewhere.
Oh, he was the dream pick last year.
Yeah,
Everybody thought Rashad White was going to repeat, and he ended up just falling flat and getting supplanted.
Yeah, it's definitely the play to go there, because you can always be safe with a running back who's young and healthy, goal line touchdowns, getting touches, especially if they struggle in the passing game.
Right. Totally agree with that. So there you go, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm probably avoiding Baker Mayfield there. There's no reason to take a chance with that. As much as I love the guy and I love the player, not for fantasy, guys. That's my take on him right now. Okay, let's turn to the Las Vegas Raiders. That's another team that has had a lot of turnover. Obviously, they got Pete Carroll as their new head coach, and they got a new quarterback in Geno Smith. They drafted Ashton Janty really early in the first round. Lots, and they got a big breakout last year from Brock Bowers. I mean, there's a lot going on here, which I think is going to add into it. Not to mention that they also drafted Jack Beck in the second round out of TCU as a wide receiver, and Deontay Thornton in the fourth round out of Tennessee as a wide receiver. So lots of changes there among the offense, a lot of changes there among for them in Las Vegas. So what do you think here? What's the impact of all this change, Scott, for the Las Vegas Raiders and fantasy football?
Yeah, I think, a couple of years ago that they were able to put up some numbers. They had Hunter Renfrow, and they were able to move the ball. And obviously, Brock Bowers, I picked him up after he was on waivers week 1.
Unbelievable.
I picked him up in waivers somehow.
Unbelievable.
And I think I was a late waiver, and he was like pickup of the year. Like,
oh yeah,
that was my biggest probably pickup ever. But yeah, I like Geno Smith. I mean, he's performed. He can run the ball. Obviously, him and Pete have a history. Pete Carroll's an amazing coach. He's going to get that team going, and I think they're going to be able to move the ball. Now, do they have enough defense to make a difference? I don't know. Who's going to be their wide receiver 1? Yeah, I don't know. I was just looking at their depth chart. But I think, Geno is an interesting play. Not a high pick, but, this will be a team that will compete and move the ball, and they're not going to be terrible under Carroll, I don't think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, if you look at their wide receiver options, obviously it's really, really hard to say, but Jacoby Myers is being drafted at the highest point right now for Las Vegas receivers. He is wide receiver 40 at an ADP of 70.0. After that, he goes all the way down to Jack Beck at wide receiver 68, 161.5 ADP overall. And then you got Deontay Thornton all the way down at wide receiver 78, 189.5 overall. I just have no idea how that's going to work right now. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of conservative play on offense with Pete Carroll. I see a lot of ground game, run first type of football like he did in the past. So I have a feeling that that's going to be what he does this season for Las Vegas. And I really do like Brock Bowers, as you said, and I'm willing to pay up for him this year. He's tight end 1. And his ADP is 19.0. I mean, he had a legendary rookie season that you already talked about. He logged the most receptions, most receiving yards, most PPR fantasy points per game, most targets for a rookie tight end ever. I mean, he basically had a season for the ages. And I think he can keep that up. He had a ridiculously high target share of 23.6%. I think that will remain there, or if not even get higher. There are not really any, and Geno Smith is not a downfield guy. I don't think Pete Carroll's a downfield guy. In fact, Pete Carroll actually ranked highest in the league for using 12 personnel. That's 1 running back and 2 tight ends, and even 13 personnel, 1 running back and 3 tight end formations back in when he was with the Seahawks. So I can see Brock Bowers just getting on the field like for every play and having a target share that equals what he had last year, if not more. So loving Brock Bowers. I'm assuming you love Brock Bowers as well.
Yeah, he's gonna be huge, and Gino and him will set up a relationship. Gino's a tight end, targeting quarterback
Oh,
is
yeah,
big time.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
The guy I will avoid, and I think we talked about this before, is Ashton Janty. He's being drafted as RB5 with an ADP of 11.5. So listen, I just said that Pete Carroll is a run first guy, but he's also a run first guy by committee. He likes to use a
yeah,
lot of running backs. And I think that is a little bit dangerous. Yeah, sure. There is a Marshawn Lynch that pops out every so often. Maybe you get like a Kenneth Walker who pops out every often. And maybe that's what happens here with Ashton Genty. But he's a rookie, and you got to remember that not only the scheme not to his advantage because Carroll likes to rotate in running backs, but think Bijan Robinson from 2023. I think we spoke about this pre-show. What happened there. I mean, he was drafted as basically the third running back overall in fantasy leagues. He came out in his rookie season with 976 rush yards, 487 receiving yards, and 8 total touchdowns. That's not bad, but that's not first round material. That's like second at best, if not third, fourth, fifth round running back material there. And I just don't want to spend that type of draft capital on a guy who might be Bijan Robinson 2.0 in his first year. That's not to say he's going to be bad as a football player. He's just not going to be that productive that you could take him in the first round and set it and forget it. And I don't want to have to deal with that kind of anxiety week to week. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was just looking up his stats in the bowl game. He went 30 for 104 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure if I remember that game correctly, he didn't do anything or all those yards came later in the game. And so, his offensive line probably wasn't that good or whatever. You can make all these excuses, but the bottom line is when he went up against Big Ten defense, he got shut down basically. And so what is that going to look like for him in the NFL? And, to your point with running back by committee, Pete Carroll's not going to stick with him if he's going, 2.1 yards a carry and can't get through the line, is getting the NFL players are just bigger, faster. Right. I'd have to look at the draft. Did any of those Penn State defenders even get drafted? And he's not even going up against those guys, and they shut him down. So, yeah, I agree. I think he's being way overdrafted, tons of hype. But, I mean, it could be that he's just way over his head. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty. So that being said, I'm pretty sure that Abdul Carter got drafted, but yeah, I get what you're saying. The fact of the matter, he's not going to be facing Abdul Carter even every single game. It's going to be elevated defenses all the way around, and it'll be really interesting to me to see what happens, because keep in mind that Raheem Mostert was just picked up there. He's actually playing for the Raiders this coming season, and he's only one season removed from 1,000 rush yards. So there is some potential there to kind of use a little bit of running back by committee. Zamir White is actually very popular there as well. He had some flashes last year. I can see a three-headed monster in the backfield, and he may be trying to make sure that Ashton Genty doesn't have to carry the team, right, which is the reasonable thing to do as a new head coach. You don't want your rookie running back to be run into the ground and lose confidence. You want to make sure he stays fresh and has an ability to make some big plays. So yeah, maybe you get lightning in a bottle, but RB5, a little bit too rich for my blood. All right, Scott, we got one more team each to give. Tell me, what team do you think is going to be a great source of fantasy points this season?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a team that I got an up close view of at the end of the year, and that's the Washington Commanders. Look, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. He came in and did a great job as a rookie. Took him some time to get his legs under him, and they really put together a good season. He's being drafted very high. I think 3 is what we were talking about.
Yeah, QB3, that's right.
And that's a great value. And I think what it does, he's got a lot of talent on that roster, but it's not going to be, first, second round talent. I think it's going to be in that depth, right? So you've got McLaurin, you've got Johnson, you've got Eckler. There's just a stack of guys that you could grab sort of middle rounds. And we're talking about, avoid this guy, don't overdraft here, don't overdraft here. Right. Well, if you're passing on a Genty in the first round and you're waiting around to see what's coming your way, and you're staring at a Johnson later in the draft, why not take him? That offense, if they can advance, they're going to run the ball better. They're going to throw the ball better. They're going to have play action. And you stack all that together, and, that's a solid team. And you've just got that depth, I feel like up and down in their skill positions. And I just see this as a really good value team to keep an eye on. And, as these guys are being looked around or passed around, I'd rather have a Terry McLaurin than DK Metcalf. I'd rather have a Terry McLaurin over drafting a Mike Evans. And I think there's just a lot of value coming after Jaden Daniels, obviously, at the top of the draft.
Yeah. Now, Terry McLaurin obviously going at wide receiver 19, 33 overall ADP. So he's going high-ish, but I think that's definitely worth it with what we've seen he can pull off, and Jaden Daniels on another year on his belt. We already mentioned Jaden Daniels at QB3, 38.5 ADP overall. I think the great value here, Deebo Samuel is actually going for wide receiver 39, 69.5 ADP overall. I mean, that's pretty darn good for something that could be, I mean, they probably use him in the run game as well. So I think there's some value there because right now the starting running back duo is Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. So, hey, listen, that's not bad, but I can see Deebo Samuel being part of that backfield as well as getting opportunity to catch some passes and create in space. So wide receiver 39, 69.5 overall. Great. I think some good value there for Deebo Samuel. And then Brian Robinson at 87 overall and RB 30. Not a bad shot. I mean, you're basically getting nothing for an RB1, giving nothing to get that RB1. So I see that as a good value as well. Do you like all those guys in Washington?
Yeah, I think it's a good team to just keep your eye on and looking at value. Like I said, whenever I do a draft board, I always start crossing guys off. Like I'm not going to take DK. I'm not going to take Mike Evans. And then you got to take somebody somewhere. And so if you're taking a higher pick on a wide receiver, or maybe you take a Brock Bowers in the first round or the top of the second round, you've got to keep an eye on somebody coming back around on the backside and grabbing those. And Deebo, I'd much rather have Deebo sitting on my bench as a what if than a lot of guys in this league.
Yeah, totally agree. And then my one deep pick for Washington, we talked about him pre-show, Zach Ertz. Tight end 21, going 170.5 overall. That's basically free. I mean, I think it's interesting because obviously he's 34, but he had 66 catches and 654 yards and 7 touchdowns last season with Jaden Daniels. That's not going away. I mean, Jaden Daniels he's only getting better. He finished tight end 8 last year in PPR scoring. I mean, listen, this is something that I think is going to persist. He obviously has a great connection of Jaden Daniels, and at 170.5 overall. So in 10-team leagues, you're getting him in the 17th round or later. Tight end 21, everyone's had their tight end by then. If you're waiting around for tight end, I don't mind taking a shot at Zach Ertz and getting some great value there. I don't know why he's not going higher. I mean, what do you think there?
I think it's just people dismissing him for age is the only thing that I can think of. But like I said, I got Brock Bowers on the waiver wire last year, and I think there's been other ones. Tight end is it's one of those positions where there's the top couple guys, and then anyone could pop. It's usually touchdown dependent,
right?
And you could grab, it could be Ertz. He's as likely as anybody could get 30 catches, 10 touchdowns, and 500 yards, and he's going to outpace somebody. Kyle Pitts, who's still waiting to.
I mean, geez, Kyle Pitts. Don't even tell me how much have I lost on Kyle Pitts? Oh my gosh. I thought he was the second coming, and he ended up just crushing me every time I drafted him. Every single season. So let's turn to my team that I'm thinking about in terms of fantasy football value. And of course, it happens to coincide with my team generally, and that's the Chicago Bears. And let me tell you why. I mean, we have now revamped the offensive line. That is clearly the number one problem of the Bears, other than the kind of unknown quantity that we have in Caleb Williams at this point. But as far as protection, that no longer is a problem. We went out and got Drew Dahlman, the best center in free agency. We got Joe Tunney from Kansas City. We got Braxton Jones And now we've added that to Jonah Jackson. We got Jonah Jackson, and we add that to Darnell Wright. We have a almost completely revamped offensive line now. And we have a completely revamped offense because not only do we have Caleb Williams returning and DJ Moore returning and DeAndre Swift, but you also have, and you have Rome Odunze coming back in his second season, but you got Luther Burden also being added there as well. And Colston Loveland, who was drafted in 10th overall by the Bears, the tight end out of Michigan. So we got a lot of changes there. We got a lot of value there, I think. I am obviously going to stay away from most of the wide receivers because, as we saw last year with the Rome Odunze, you just can't tell how it's going to split up. I mean, you got the talent, doesn't mean you're going to get all the targets. And although DJ Moore probably the safest bet, he's going as wide receiver 21. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. Last year, not really meeting any expectations. I mean, 2 years ago, 64 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. But then he slipped to 966 and 6 touchdowns. Wide receiver 21 is not really worth it there. And we don't know what's going to happen with Rome Odunze in the second year or with Luther Burden. The guy I really like, though, in the Bears this year, DeAndre Swift. Running back 23, ADP 70.0 overall. DeAndre Swift had 1,345 yards from scrimmage last year with 6 touchdowns. And now he's paired up with his old offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson. And Johnson, of course, knows how to use DeAndre Swift, loves using him with other running backs there and giving him plenty of opportunity. That, like I said, the dramatically improved interior of that offensive line is there, might give him more room to run. And then he's a great escape hatch for Caleb Williams if he gets in trouble. I mean, he didn't have a terrific season in terms of per rush stats, but he did come through in terms of getting you the overall numbers that you needed to qualify to make sure you got their value from their pick. And I think at RB23, he's a pretty good deal. And then the late, but not that late pick, Colston Loveland, tight end 12 right now, ADP 136.0. Hey guys, they didn't draft him 10th overall to sit him. Ben Johnson loves employing 12 personnel. You've benefited from that before, Scott. And of course, he helped develop Sam Laporta, and Sam Laporta obviously blew the doors off there in terms of tight end play. They got now Loveland and Cole Kmet. That's a perfect combo for 12 personnel. So I see that that will probably be giving Loveland plenty of opportunity. I think that if you're waiting on tight end again, tight end 12, ADP 136.0, take a dart throw on Colston Loveland, pair him with Zach Ertz, and you know off to the races. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to get some value. What do you think about the Chicago Bears and the value you can get there from fantasy football?
Yeah, so my biggest improvement was going to be Ben Johnson and talking about, you know, what he brings to the table and being able to come up with ways to get the ball out. He'll be able to figure out ways to get the ball moving. What I don't know is how is he going to manage being the head coach and also having his fingers on the offense. So is there some fall off there? And then be prepared for DeAndre Swift to throw an interception on some halfback pass or some double reverse that gets fumbled.
Yeah.
So you just be prepared as a fan to see that and just wonder, what am I watching? But he's going to get the ball out. Swift's going to get the ball. The tight end absolutely is going to get the ball. You know, they're going to protect Caleb Williams, give him time to throw the ball. So I think it's an interesting offense. I think to your point, who's going to get the ball, who's going to see it. I think Caleb's clearly the most interesting player on that team from a fantasy standpoint.
Right.
But I think after that, it's going to be, you know, how does Ben settle into head coach versus that? He tends to try hard, as you've seen in the playoff games. If you watch the Lions, he'll try to outthink the room and come up with some quadruple reverse falling down play.
Right.
So you might have some frustrating games where you're like, guys, just hand the ball off and let's get 3 yards, or let's just dump it off here. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I do think it's overall the team's going to be much more explosive. I think be prepared for some frustrating days of like just not understanding what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. In terms of potential and number of outcomes, Caleb Williams is the entire spectrum. He's going right now at QB 12, 108.5 ADP overall. I mean, he could end the season QB4. He could end the season QB 32, and I wouldn't be surprised about any of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised about any of that. So I just feel like that. I mean, I think he's a great QB to take if you're going to be taking 2 and you want an upside play, right? If you're going to go a little safe. You're going to take a quarterback in front of him like Brock Purdy. He's not going to blow the doors off, but he's going to be reliable. And you're like, I want some upside. Pair him with Caleb Williams. I can see that. You take Bo Nix late, and you're like, listen, I hope he repeats, but I don't know. Yeah, sure. Take Caleb Williams. You have some faith in Justin Fields for some reason, and you decide to get him. Yeah, get Caleb Williams to back yourself up. Maybe you want Dak Prescott, and you think that he's going to kick a comeback. Sure, take him, and you will get some upside with Caleb. So, in other words, I don't want to be relying on Caleb as my number 1 quarterback in fantasy, but I do like the value you get in terms of the upside. And, of course, he could be, like I said, as good as 4 or as bad as 32. All right. That brings us to the end of the show, our early fantasy football show. It's great being back on the air again, man. And fantasy football, I am so psyched for the season coming up. Scott, give us your social media and tell us what you're up to so we can follow you.
Yeah, hit me up on NFL Fantasy _ on Twitter, X. NASCAR, it's been a rough season, but we had a good run lately. So I'll have my picks out for this week. I've been looking at a little bit of baseball, but not much. I'm ready to go into football and stop playing these games that I'm struggling with this summer.
Right. Let's get back to what we're good at. That's what we're saying. Let's get back to what we're good at. All right. So definitely give Scott a follow. You can find me at FB Garbage Time on Twitter/X or on Blue Sky. You can also find me at the Football Garbage Time page on Facebook. As usual, thank you for listening and wasting time with us. Until next time, enjoy your NFL week.